Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello, my dear friend and student. In this video, I want to explain some basic accounting terminologies. Terminology simply means terms. Those terms which can be used or which are regularly used in accounting. Terminology in Persian means اصطلاحات علمی یا اصطلاحات فنی. Also, we can call it واژه, right? Several terminologies are there. Number one is, for example, business. As we are business students, so number one, we have to know the meaning of business. Business simply means tashabbus, tijarat, ya sawdagari. How to know the exact meaning of this one in English? How to define it? I have brought two definitions for accounting for this one, definition of business. Any legal activity undertaken for the purpose of earning profit, such as buying and selling of goods or service, is called what? Business. Any legal activity, right? So if you take any legal activity and that is for the purpose of earning profit, it might be buying and selling of goods or services, can be called as what? As business. So it means if you do anything for the purpose of profit and that is legally acceptable, it is not illegal. So illegal activities cannot be called as a business. So you have to understand that it should be legal. یعنی قانونی باشه. هر عملی که انجام میدی قانونی و به خاطر به دست آوردن فایده ایره به نام چی یاد میکنن؟ به نام legal activity، به نام business یاد میکنن. Any legal activity undertaken for the purpose of earning profit can be called as what? As a business. Can be buying and selling of goods or services, right? But remember, the term legality depends on the law of different country. Some business might be legal in one country and it may not be legal in another country. بعض پرودکت ها یا فعالیت ها امکان داره در بعض کشورها قانونی باشه مگر در بعض کشورهای دیگه قانونی نباشه. به طور مثال تولید شراب در دیگه کشورها امکان داره که چی باشه؟ قانونی باشه. It's a business there. But in Afghanistan, producing of wine is not legally accepted. It is not legally allowed. So producing of wine cannot be called as what? As a business. Why? Because it's a kind of illegal activities, right? Point number one. Second definition can be an economic system where goods and services are exchanged for one another or for many. Business can be defined as an economic system where goods and services are exchanged for one another or for many. Business میگه یک سیستم اقتصادی است که اجناس و خدمات به یکدیگر تبدیل میشن یا اجناس و خدمات در مقابل پول چی میشن؟ تبادله میشن. پس هر دفینیشنی که به خود آسان است میتونی امروز دفینیشن چی کنی؟ برای یاد بگیری. اولش ساده ترین دفینیشن است. Any legal activity undertaken for the purpose of earning profit can be called as what? As business. One terminology. Let us go for the next terminology. Second terminology in the business which are commonly used and repeatedly is transaction. Transaction چی معنی میده؟ معامله. داد و ستد. How can you define it? You can define it this way. Any dealing بازم چی؟ دیل چی معنی میده؟ معامله معنی میده. Any dealing or buying and selling between two persons and business enterprise is called what? Transaction. هر معامله مثل خریداری و فروشات چی خرید شوه چی فروش شوه بین دو نفر بین احمد و محمود and also between persons and business بین احمد و یک شرکت به نام چی یاد میشه؟ به نام ترانزکشن یاد میشه. پس شما if you make any kinds of transaction between yourself and between you and business or business and business can be called as what? As transaction. For example, several transactions are mentioned here. Ahmad purchased a machine from Ali. Amount how much? 5,000. So it's a transaction. And of course, it's a monetary transaction if you remember definition of accounting. Why? Because it's a money is involved in this case. Cordon University charged $100 fee on each student. So Cordon charged how much fee? $100 on each student. So it's also a transaction. کرشما جان deposited $200 to her bank account. متوجه هستین اینجا کرشما جان؟ احمد بیچاره که تمام به خیر باشه. Karishma John deposited $200 to her bank account. So it's also a kind of transaction, right? Ahmad goods sold on credit to XYZ Limited. Amount how much? 300, right? So goods are sold on credit or cash, whatever. It's a transaction. Furniture bought from Turkish Bazaar on cash is a transaction. Rent paid amount this much, it's a transaction. Salary received amount this much is a transaction. Owner started business with amount this much. All of these are transactions, right? So any dealing or buying or selling, whatever, between two or more person can be called as what? This one. Salary paid, food expenses paid, rent paid, whatever transaction you have in the business. So that can be called as what? The transaction. So before to go forward, first of all, let us go with the types of transaction. See, we said transaction, this is the meaning of transaction, and these are the types, these are the examples of transaction. Now the questions comes with the types of transaction. چند نوع transaction ما داریم. Usually we have two types of transaction, cash transaction or credit transaction. If you remember the previous, if you remember the first part of definition of accounting, that we have classified transaction into two parts. That was financial character transactions and non-financial character transactions, right? That was another classification of transaction, but in this case, we want to define transaction into two parts, cash transaction and credit transaction. Cash transactions mean معامله نقدی و credit transaction معاملات چی؟ اعتباری. First of all, what is cash transaction? When cash paid or cash received as a result of exchange called cash transaction. What do you mean by this one? You purchase something or you sell something. On the spot you receive money or you pay money. یک چیز میخری یا مفروشی. اما دفتن پیسه چی میشه؟ تبادله میشه. این معامله رو چی میگه؟ معامله نقدی. یعنی on the spot دیگه سرک دیگه اعتبار نداره. Second transaction is credit transactions یا معامله اعتباری. When the payments are received of cash is postponed for future date, called which transaction? Credit transaction. You purchase something or you sell something, and the payment or receipt is postponed for the future. For example, Ahmad purchased a machine from you, and he promised to pay you in the future. Or you purchase a computer from Ali, and you promise to pay in the future. این معامله وقتی میشه که ما سر یک دیگه چی داشته باشیم؟ اعتماد داشته. Now the questions come with this one, how to identify cash and credit transaction. اینو اگه در سوال گفته شده باشه که ما سوال به ما مثال داده شده چطور بفهمیم که این معاملات کش است یا این معامله چی است؟ معامله کردیت یا قرضی است. اگه در مثال دایرکتلی گفته شده باشه که this is a cash transaction خب میفهمی. اگه گفته شده باشه که this is a credit transaction that's also fine. But sometimes the term cash or credit may not be mentioned in the example. So how can you identify? And before to identify that one, why we need to identify? Because the way of recording cash transaction and credit transaction is different. So that is why before recording in the book of account, we should understand that we are to record it, right? So remember this point. Now let's go with the identifying. How to identify cash and credit transaction? Number one, it's a cash transaction if. It's a cash transaction if. It means how to identify cash transaction. It's a cash transaction if the term cash, paid, or receipts are mentioned in a transaction. If the term cash, paid, and receipt are mentioned in the transaction, or any one of these terms are mentioned in the transaction, so that can be called as a cash transaction. Are you getting my point? یکی از این کلمات اگر در جمله ذکر شده بود اونمو معامله چی است؟ معامله کش است. به طور مثال در مثالی که قبلا گفتیم معامله C، معامله E، معامله F، معامله G و معامله چی؟ H یا کش ترانزکشن است. بیاین سعی کنیم که این معامله کش ترانزکشن است. Number 1 C. In number C, Karishma John deposited another to her bank account, right? C. In this transaction, there are some exceptions as well. Although in this transaction, the term cash, paid, and received is not mentioned, but see in the nature of the transaction, When you deposit to the bank, of course, you should deposit cash. You cannot deposit something else, right? So remember that in these cases, these are the exceptional case. When you deposit to the bank, or it means you have deposited cash. Ito na میشه که کامپیوتر رو دوام چی کنی؟ deposit کنی. So when you deposit to the bank, it means you deposit cash. These are some exceptional. Transaction E is also a cash transaction. Let us say E. Furniture bought from Turkish bazaar on cash. کلمه چی ذکر شده؟ کلمه cash ذکر شده. So it's a cash transaction. Transaction F is also a cash transaction. Now let's see transaction F. Rent paid amount this much. Which term is mentioned here? Paid is mentioned here. Next one, transaction G is also a cash transaction. See transaction G. Salary received amount this much. So the term received is mentioned. So if anytime if the term received, the term paid, and the term cash are mentioned in the transaction, so that transaction is what transaction? Cash transaction. Except some exceptional cases in which when we deal with the bank or some other cases that we will discuss, those transactions are also cash transaction. بطور مثال دی مثال کدام ترانزکشنه؟ چیز گفته؟ each transaction is also a cash transaction. Now let's see each transaction. Each transaction. Owner started business with amount how much? 10,000. صاحب business به مبلغ 10,000 چی کرده؟ شروع کرده. پس معمولا business توسط چی شروع میشه؟ توسط کش شروع نمیشه؟ business معمولا توسط کش شروع میشه. پس اینی ترانزکشن و اینی ترانزکشن یک اکسپشنال کیس است. در دیگه صورت ها اگر در ترم paid, received و cash اگر منشن شده بود ترانزکشن کش ترانزکشن است، غیر از او ترانزکشن credit transaction. درست است؟ So remember this point. سه کلمه را باید داشته باشید. On the other side, it is a credit transaction if. How to identify a credit transaction? It's a credit transaction if the term credit is mentioned or the above terms are not mentioned in the transaction. Remember this point. یا کلمه کردیت ذکر شوه خودش مستقیم یا این کلمه دو بالا استفاده نشوه. اگر بالا استفاده شد کش، اگر نشد بعد من چی هست کردیت است. اگر کلمه کردیت ذکر شوه خود نور الا نور. مثالش A, B and D. A, B and D را سعی میکنیم که در A, B and D چی است. به طور مثال A. Ahmad purchased a machine from Ali amount this much. The term cash is mentioned? No. The term paid is mentioned? No. The term received is mentioned? No. So it means it's a credit transaction. B. Cordon University charged 100 fee on each student. The term paid, received, and cash are not mentioned, so it's a credit transaction. Goods sold on credit. هنا خد الكلمة credit مستقيم شي شده؟ ذكر شده. So it means this transaction is a credit transaction. So in this way you can identify the cash and credit transaction. Terminology number 3 is this one. Merchandise or goods. چی معنامته؟ اجناس یا امتعه. امتعه جمع متا مال معنامته. درست است؟ What do you mean by this one? Goods are those articles which are purchased for resale or for producing the finished product which are meant for resale. See, let me explain in this way. Anything which is purchased for resale purpose, those things can be called as what? As goods. Anything which you purchase for resale purpose or you purchase to be used during the process of production, that can be called as what? As goods. آن چیزی را که شما خریداری میکنن و هدفتون ایست که این را دوباره پس بفروشن. استفاده نکنن. چی نکنن؟ Do not use it. You purchase just for resale purpose. میخری که دوباره پس چی کنیشه؟ پس بفروشیشه. یا میخری که به جریان پروسه پرودکشن چی شوه؟ استفاده شوه. این را با نام چی یاد میکنن؟ با نام goods or merchandise. Right? Let me take a simple example. For example, raw materials purchased for production purpose. Raw materials مواد خام معنامته. مواد خام خریداری شده به خاطر چیست؟ به خاطر پرودکشن یا تولید. این چی است؟ پس این goods است. یک مثال بسیار خوب دیگه. Cordon University purchased 4 cars. Out of them, 2 cars are for resale, which we can call it goods, and 2 cars are for what purpose? For office use. See this point. This is very important. Cordon چند دانه موتر خریده؟ Cardone University purchased 4 cars. Out of these 4 cars, 2 of them are for the resale purpose and 2 of them are for what purpose? For office use. Those 2 cars which are for resale purpose, we can call it goods. اینجا کار دیگه نمیگیم که it is car. Why? Because it is for resale purpose. And those 2 cars which are for office use, for those we can call it what? We can call it car. پس چیزایی رو که میخرین اگر هدفتان نیست که در بزنس استفاده کنین، به طور مثال روزانه ازش کار بگیرین، اون نام واقعیش خودش برش ذکر میکنی. به طور مثال 6 تا پرینتر میخری، از 6 تا پرینتر 4 تایش میخری دوباره بفروشی، 2 تایش در بزنس استفاده کنی بر پرینت دیگه پا. او 2 دانی که به خاطر آفیس استفاده میشه به خاطر یوزج خودش پرینتر میگه، خلاص پرینتر. او 4 دانی که به خاطر فروش استفاده میشه به او ما پرینتر نمیگیم. برای چی میگیم؟ برایش گودز میگیم. So it can be in the case of anything, even for example in the case of building, not only these things. In the case of building, suppose in the case of construction company, suppose a construction company has, for example, 4 buildings. 3 of them are for resale purpose, 1 is for the office use. The one which is for the office use can be called as the building itself, and the 3 which are for resale purpose can be called as goods. بنام چیات میشه؟ goods. پس goods اجناس و چیزای هر چیزی که به خاطر فروش دوباره استفاده میشه اینجا کلیش میگه goods. شرکت های ما شما که از چاینا، از ایران، از غیره و غیره کشورها جنس وارد نکنه به خاطر فروش، به کلگیش برای چی گفته میشه؟ goods. درست است؟ کالا، goods و غیره. Next accounting terminology is this one. Purchase. Purchase چی معنی میده؟ خرید یا خریداری کردن. It refers to buying of goods, assets in which business deal. Yeah, you just buy anything. I buy a car. It's a purchase. I purchase a machine. I purchase something. من چیز خریداری میکنم. خریداری کردن خلاص. این رو برام چیت میکنه؟ Purchase. And of course purchase is also a transaction. It can be a cash transaction. It can be a credit transaction. So میتونه معاملات نقدی باشه، میتونه معاملات چی باشه؟ قرضی باشه. The same way it sales. Sales also can be on cash basis or sales can be on credit basis. What do you mean by sales? Sales are total revenue from goods or service provided to the customers. آن چیزی که شما به مشتریا به خدمتشان قرار میتین و در مقابل مشتری براتون پول میده و رو برام چیاد میشه؟ برام sales یاد میشه. So sales depends. Manufacturing company produce or sells good. Service company render service. Banks also offer service, right? Cardone University provide, for example, educational service. So this is our sales. Whatever you have and you provide to the customers and you receive money for that, that can be called as what? Sales. Sales چی معنی میده؟ فروش یا بایع میده. So like purchase, sales also can be on cash as well as it can be on credit basis.